Welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to play a game against a FIDE master from Denmark. He's quite strong. I guess I'll go for d4 this game. c4 maybe. And knight f3, I guess. Maybe going for some kind of queen's Indian. Okay, he goes for d5. I'll play knight c3. I'm not really into this e3 stuff. Okay, the Tarrasch has become very trendy lately, so I think that's what he's going to play. Okay, I guess I'll take on d5. He goes for the semi-Tarrasch instead, sorry. g3 is possible. I guess I'll go for the main line with e4, why not? Taking the center, but in return, black gets comfortable development. Okay, I've heard that bishop c4 is the most critical move here. Okay, do I castle or play d5? I always forget. Because d5 is a very common idea in these positions. But I guess I'll castle. I think after b6 you played d5. Yeah, I think I've even had a game that went something like this. Hopefully my opponent hasn't checked it out and prepared. I strongly doubt it, to be honest. Then my opponent played knight c5 and I played queen f4. And the computer says the position is equal after queen f6. Which is probably true. But d5 is definitely an interesting move I should think about. I could also just play it slowly with rook ac1, bishop b7, queen e2, but I think d5 is interesting. Queen e3 might also be possible. I guess I'll go queen f4. Hopefully he hasn't prepared, because that would be a bit unfortunate. Next I want to get my rooks on the open lines and on the lines that are soon going to be open, so moves like rook ac1, rook fd1 or rook fe1 are moves that I want to play in the near future. I think this is what my opponent played and I played rook fe1 in that game, but the computer says that rook fd1 I think was better. Guess I'll play rook fd1. Maybe I should have analyzed that game more thoroughly, but I didn't. So maybe this is a lesson. Yeah, I remember the idea of rook fe1 was to play d6. That's why I played rook fe1. So that the pawn on e4 is defended after I play d6, which it isn't here. If he takes on d5, I wonder how I'll take. If I'll take with a pawn or if I'll take with a bishop. I don't know. If I take with a bishop, he might play queen b8 or something. And it's a pretty dry position. So maybe I'll take with a pawn. Because in the last game I played I was able to build up a very strong attack somehow, which was kind of interesting. Because white has potential to play knight h4, knight f5. This is a very common idea to put more pressure on black's king side. Also queen g4 in some positions. I have a very bad loss in a blitz game when I played this as black. And I also have a very good win as white in this position. But so I think it's objectively equal, but maybe slightly easier to play white. Because white has the clear plan of knight h4, knight f5 and queen g4. And I can't really suggest a plan, so if he'll take on d5, I guess I'll take back with the pawn. And now he takes e5 is also interesting, but I don't know. Maybe e5 is too creative. It's common to sacrifice a pawn, but I don't think this is the correct position to play, even though the move e5 is very entertaining. Okay, let's try to calculate it a little. e5, knight e6, maybe queen g4. Yeah, I don't know. e5 doesn't look too stupid, to be honest. But I guess I'll take on d5. Keep it a bit more simple. Though e5 was very interesting for sure. Very typical theme to sacrifice the pawn, but I guess I won't sacrifice a pawn this game. I'm sure Mikhail Tal is very disappointed, but what can I do? Next I wanna play knight h4. Is there any reason not to play knight h4 with the idea of knight f5? I don't really see a reason not to do it. Knight h4, g5, queen g3 is weakened himself a lot and he doesn't win any material, so sure. Ah wait, then he has knight e4, so I have to be a little bit careful, and after knight h4, g5, play queen g4. And here I don't think he has any tactics. Oh, he might have h5, which wins material, but then I might maybe... Yeah, then I have a perpetual at least with queen takes h5. Maybe also rook d4 with the idea of rook g4 is good there. I honestly blundered it, but I don't think he can play g5 anyways. If g5 doesn't work for him, then he is losing right away. So I don't think he'll play it, it's very risky. And the white's idea is to play knight f5 in this position, to increase the tension on the king's side, and now also knight d6 might be interesting at some point. I don't know if pushing the d pawn, playing the move d6 is also an idea, because then my passed pawn is pushed a bit further, and the bishop on c4 also gets opened up. It's very interesting for sure, the move d6. I guess the only piece that really isn't doing anything is the rook on a1, so maybe playing rook ac1 at some point is not a very stupid idea. If I play knight f5 right away, he might have queen f6. I don't think this is a dangerous move, but it's hard to kick the queen out from this square, and here it neutralizes the attack a bit. But then I have the idea of d6 with the idea of knight e7. Then he'll probably play king h8. Maybe king h8 now is not too stupid of a move, with the idea of g5, but then I get queen d4. So I guess king h8 doesn't threaten g5, that's good. Because then I can just simply play rook ac1 and get my final piece into the game. I guess my opponent's idea is knight b2 with this move, but this move looks incredibly sketchy. Placing the knight, a knight on the rim is dim. And also, I noticed that when I move away this bishop, I attack this knight. So I want to see if I can make that work for me tactically somehow. Currently the threat, I guess, is knight b2, or the idea my opponent has. How should I respond? I see an idea, but it might not work. Yeah, knight f5, knight b2. The idea of queen g4, g6, queen d4, pawn takes f5, queen takes b2, but then maybe it's hanging on c4. So I should be a little bit careful. Maybe the move rook d4 with the idea of swinging over the rook on the king side could be an idea for sure. And you might want to play knight c3. I do need to be somewhat careful here. Bishop b3 is interesting, but the knight c3 might be good. So I would prefer not to allow it. How should I stop his idea in the most effective way? Maybe after knight f5, knight b2 or knight c3, I then have queen d4. Then he'll play queen f6, I'll take and play knight d7 and take here. The problem is I think this endgame is equal, but... Okay, I guess I'll... Fine, I'll go for it. Maybe it's not the best idea, to be honest. But you also have the move queen e5. The idea of playing knight e7 right away, but I don't think it changes the picture much. Well, maybe. You never know. Now it's tempting to play d6 with the idea of knight e7, but maybe this just transposes in a strange way. But no, my pawn is pushed further. The idea is that after rook takes c4, I have the intermezzo knight e7. Queen takes e7. Pawn takes e7, rook takes f4, rook d8. Seems to be very good. I guess I'll go for it, but he does have knight b2 ideas in the end, so it might not be that great for me. But it shouldn't be bad either. Because I might have queen c7 after knight b2. It's tempting to play d7 to push the pawn even further. The idea that after rook takes c4, I have queen takes c4. Should I do it? Okay, let's do it. I don't see the problem with it. Maybe I also want to play rook d6 at some point, but I have to be really careful with the rook on a1. This is actually an idea in many variations, rook d6 now, as after rook d8 for instance, rook ac1, knight b2, I suddenly have rook d6. Guess I'll go for rook ac1. Sure. If g6, I'll play queen d4. Queen takes d4, knight takes d4, rook takes d7, bishop b5. So that should be good for me. Though this position is very unclear for sure. I might want to play queen g4 so I step out of the pin at some point. And the move rook d6 as previously mentioned also looks kind of active. So very many ideas in this position. Also after g6 I have queen c7 as well as queen d4. Because he might have knight c5 after queen takes d4, knight takes d4. After queen c7, g6, queen c7, bishop takes b7. I need to find some kind of accurate move. It's tempting to play rook d6 in this position. I don't really see the problem. And his queen seems trapped. He doesn't have knight e2, which is very important. And so I don't know what he's going to play. So this should now be very good for me. Yeah, I don't see how he defends, how he can move his queen away now. Because after knight d5, bishop takes d5, queen b2, I can take on b7 because the queen on f4 defends the rook on c1, for instance. Rook takes d7, rook takes f6 doesn't help anyways. So I don't see what he will do. Maybe he'll have to play knight e2 and give away a knight, but then it's completely lost, of course. So I think knight c3 was actually a blunder by him. And knight e2, bishop takes e2, queen b2. I guess queen d2 is an accurate move there. And it should be all over. Okay, he does go for this move, but now I can... Yeah, I need to take on e2, that's for sure. I just have to be careful after queen b2 not to play queen d4. So I think the only way to lose the game really, I guess I'll go queen d2. Maybe he'll play queen e5, but I'm just a piece up. You just have to be a tiny bit careful. Maybe the move bishop g4 is not too bad. Yeah, I don't see the problem with it. The idea is queen d4. But queen g5 going for the mate also looks interesting, but I think queen d4 is simplest. Oh, holy smokes! I just noticed that he's threatening mate. That would have been a very sad blunder. Guess we'll play f3 defending against the mate. And then I can go queen d4. And now it's all over. Good, good. And he resigns. Good to see. Would have been so sad to blunder mate in one. Whoa, that would have been crazy. Okay, do I go for e5 or the Caro-Kann? I'm feeling for the Caro. It's a very solid opening, and I think it's very easy to play your opponent in these positions. He goes for the exchange. The pawn of attack, the pawn of attack. I see. I have a nice variation here. I can go for bishop g4, and it's a pretty drawish, but bishop e6 is very tricky. Very tricky move. Okay, c5 looks good, but it's very easy to play black because the ideas are straightforward. It's really just knight e4, bishop g4, and you attack white center. You try to break with the move b6 at some point. Knight e4 is very tempting in this position, which you often play. b6, it's tempting if it works. So b6, bishop b5, bishop d7, 7 minutes in heaven. Bishop takes c6, bishop takes c6, b4. I don't know how well that works, so I'll play knight e4 for now. Yeah, this is a funky move. I wonder what the idea of queen c1 is. It must be something very deep. It's tempting to play rook c8 to put the rook on the same file as the queen, and then try to break the position with b6. Let's do it. The only thing is that he might have bishop a6 in some variations, but it shouldn't be the end of the world. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, I still want to play b6 at some point. Bishop g4 and going for the e5 pawn break is also a typical idea in these positions. Okay, he plays a3. This is a very logical move to support the move b4 to protect his pawn on c5. So if I play b6, he wants to play b4. Now I see. a5 is an interesting move, but then I also have to think about knight a4 with the idea of knight b6. And I've given up some key squares. So this is something I would prefer to avoid, of course. And knight takes c5 is a common tactic in these positions, but I think it doesn't work here because after pawn takes c5, d4, he might have rook d1 pinning my queen. And I don't see how I can get out of the pin conveniently, so maybe I can play bishop g4 with the idea of taking on f3 and then going for knight takes c5. Though after bishop g4 he does have the move b4, but then I could maybe play e5 and it's very unclear. Yeah, looks like an interesting position to me. Sorry. Okay, prophylaxis against e5 and knight takes c5. Rook d1 is a good move. The move knight a5 looks interesting, trying to fight for some key squares. He might play queen c2. Bishop f5, queen a4, I don't know. Very unclear. On the other hand, he gets b4 with a tempi, and I don't think I'll be able to play knight c4. This is kind of tempting to take on c3, queen takes c3, and then play e5. But it looks somewhat risky as well. But for now, I guess I'll just play a simple move like rook e8. With the idea of going e5 and having the pawn protected by another piece now. And then also the rook will be in the file, which will be open after the move e5. I really want to play e5, but I have to try and plan it here. Okay, so what should I do? I can take on f3. I don't know how much I want to do that, but it's definitely possible to do. Yeah, maybe, and then follow it up with knight a5. An idea is to take on f3 and follow it up with f5. That this is very common, and I've seen it in a variation of the Ragazin as black, and black is able to generate a solid attack. So I guess I'll go for it. Knight takes d5 is a tactic that works. Now I guess I want to play e6, g5, and then somehow try to push the pawns. To be honest, the rook would have been better on f8 now, so that I could have supported the move f4. The move e5 seems very interesting now, but I don't know if it works. Because the pawn on d5 will become quite weak, so it's probably not so good, to be honest. I like the move e6 with the idea of g5. My opponent is blitz. I think my opponent might be tilted. I mean, I hope he's tilted. G5, then he might have bishop takes e4. But all his pawns are on the dark square, so I don't know if I can claim to have any compensation. Probably it's not so easy to say so, but now e5 is even more tempting, because the diagonal for my bishop on g7 will be open then. Okay, g5, bishop takes e4, d takes e4, bishop takes g5. Very unclear position for sure. I guess I'll just play rook f8 and improve the position of this rook, so it supports the move f4. Even though it becomes very difficult to go for the e5 pawn break now, unfortunately. But you have to make some sacrifice at some point. See, he wants to play f3 at some point, so it is not very stupid. I'm thinking about g5, how if this move is any good or if it's just bad. Bishop takes e4, f takes e4, bishop takes g5, queen e8, knight f4, queen f7. The ideas of e5. You can also play bishop g2, then I'll play h6 maybe. Yeah, okay, it looks interesting at least. I don't really like sacrificing pawns, but this looks kind of interesting. Yeah, he's greedy. He takes the pawn almost without thinking, okay. Yeah, queen e8 was my idea. Then let's see what he has in mind. I guess rook c7, rook f7 is an interesting idea at some point, swinging over the rook to join on the king side, where I will be trying to generate some play. What other ideas can I have in this position? Definitely the e5 pawn break at some point, but when is difficult? It's not that easy because the pawn on d5 might get weak. So I have to be very delicate with this pawn break. Bishop e3 seems like a kind of sensible move for him, but it's very passive though, so with the idea of knight d4. I guess I want to play queen h5 now if it would have been my turn, but I don't think this idea is something I'll play after bishop e3, because then he'll play knight f4 with a tempi. But queen f7, defending the pawn on d5, preparing e5 seems like a sensible plan as well. Because I would love to get after e5, I would love to be able to take with the knight and then later go to either d3 or f3, because these light squares are very weak in his position. And these light squares I want to try and abuse. He has a lot of pawns on the dark squares, which is usually a bad thing when you have a dark squared bishop, because the pawns don't protect the white squares so much, so on the white squares he's very weak. While I, on the other hand, have many of my pawns on light squares, so they complement my dark squared bishop by protecting the light squares. So remember that, usually it's good to have the pawns on the opposite color of your bishop. Okay, I guess queen h5 is a possible move now. He'll play h4, I guess. Maybe I'll play queen f3. Yeah, looks plausible to me. Because after knight f4 I have knight takes d4. I just have to be careful and not get my queen trapped, but it honestly shouldn't get trapped here. He doesn't have king g2 or king h2 because the pawn on f2 would end up hanging. After king g2, for instance, I have queen f3, and then I can take on f2 with the queen next move. Now it would be incredibly tempting to put a knight on the f3 square, so the e5 pawn break is very tempting even at the cost of a pawn, but I don't know. Queen f3 was my idea here because he doesn't have knight f4 and it's not so easy to defend the pawn on f2. Ah, he has bishop e3. His idea is bishop e3. This I didn't think of until now, to be honest, but I see it now. I see it now. I guess the move king h8 is actually quite tempting, so I'll play it. So that after e5, pawn takes d5, knight takes d5, queen takes d5 will not be we check. Okay, this is probably a decent move by him. Correctly identifying that I had many nasty ideas. I have knight a5 here, that looks like an interesting move. Then he might have knight f4 though. Rook takes f4, queen takes f4, rook f8, nah, doesn't look too clear. A queen f3 I guess is also a possible move to play, pawn takes here. King h2, check. 5 g4. I don't know, very unclear. I obviously don't really want to move my knight onto a passive square, but maybe it's what I have to do. Let's see, queen f3, and knight, pawn takes c6, queen takes f2, king h1, 3 check, king h2, queen f2 check, king h3, 5 check g4, knight g3. Yeah, I don't see how I achieve anything here. Knight a5, knight f4, rook takes f4, queen takes f4, queen f4. Guess I'll play knight b8. It's not the move I want to make, but what can I do? Now I definitely want to play e5 though, because the pawn on c5 will also get weak. Queen f7 is a tempting move, so I guess I'll go for it. Queen f3 was also maybe possible. I'm threatening h6 now. Which she kind of smartly defends against and also creates a threat. This is a very annoying move which I missed, to be honest. Mistakes. e5 takes. I'll go for e5. The consequences of this move are very unclear. But okay, I'm very low on time. This was a problem that I used so much time. After rook c1, I guess I'll have to play d4 to protect my pawn. Then queen e2, queen f5 maybe. Could have played queen f5 instead actually of e5, that would have been better, but I was low on time so I didn't notice it. But I have to focus on the game now instead of thinking in retro perspective that I can do after the game. Okay, I want to play d4 here. The idea is knight d7. So I have to find the point in time when this actually works. I can only... maybe I couldn't. I guess my bishop is very important, so I can't take on f4 and take on h5 because then my pawns just collapse. Queen f5 next is definitely an idea. knight d7 too are moves I both really want to play. It's a bit annoying playing on the laptop in time trouble because it takes 1 second extra to make a move. But I'll keep on fighting. Wish I could play knight f3, but the chess.com server doesn't allow it. It's a long-term idea. A queen f5, I guess. Defending the pawn and threatening the bishop, so I get a tempo for the move knight d7. The e3 sacrifice is an idea in some positions. If bishop h6, then I have rook f6, so I think he must retreat bishop h4. Though I could consider throwing in bishop e7, but after... maybe he can then go bishop d6, and that's kind of smart by him. Sure, it becomes very messy there. Because after bishop e7, I might have bishop takes f4. Which I honestly think I really might have. He's used a lot of time now, which is very good. Actually, after bishop h4, I can take on f4. e3 looks kind of smart. Threatening queen takes g5 and taking on d2 at the same time. I guess he'll play bishop takes e3, that's my guess. And then I'll have to take back with a pawn. Maybe play knight d7 next. I blunder this. Take back. b2. The idea of rook takes b2. So rook takes c1. The king g8, I guess. I guess I'll take on d7, remove the most dangerous pawn. I'm worse here for sure. I'll have to keep on fighting somehow. Blunder the pawn. He'll try to trade queens. He goes for the trade. Whoa, I didn't think he would. Because this I think might be a draw. It's a draw for sure, I think. Go king e5, I guess. k3 maybe. Oh, his knight escapes. Rook b4 next. It's not very easy for me to play throw-in. Because I really don't have any ideas here whatsoever, so that's a bit annoying. Now I want to play king f4 next. I think he has to accept the perpetual. I don't think I have anything better myself though. Yeah, it's a draw. Very interesting games. I'm guessing that we lost the match because our team was high underdogs. Whoa, we lost the match by a big score for sure. I was pretty much the only one who got points on the team. Wow. That's not nice. That's not nice. Let's have a look at the games. Okay, I'm not sure if d5 is the best move objectively, but it's interesting because it gives your opponent a lot of choices, and the position that arises is very easy to play with white, I think. He went knight c5, queen f4. I've had a game which went like this, and in the game I played rook fe1, but the computer prefers this move, so that's why I played it here. To be honest, I should have analyzed more deeply to find out why the computer prefers rook fd1 over rook fe1. The pawn takes d5. I think queen f6 is the move the computer suggests, but claiming that this endgame is roughly equal, though I think it looks as if white has a slight advantage, I wouldn't like to play this as black. I was thinking about e5 a lot here because this is a typical motive. Because this pawn, for starters, it's isolated, it's not very strong, and also it blocks the bishop on b7. And white also has one pawn more on the king side, so it's even easier to organize an attack. So I'm very curious if the computer says it's better to take on d5 or play e5. Rook c8, logical move. I went for the typical idea, knight h4, knight f5. The simple move rook ac1 is also maybe okay. I did not notice the move knight a4 because it looks very unintuitive, placing a knight on the rim, and also the queen is kind of attacking the knight if I move away the bishop. However, it wasn't so easy in the game to punish this move because black has ideas of both knight b2 and knight c3. Let's say I do nothing, then a nasty trick black has is knight c3, rook d4, rook takes c4. Very nasty. I would not have liked to lose this way. I went for knight f5 in the game, and my opponent played queen f6, but I think he maybe should have played knight b2. And after queen e5 or queen d4, I think this endgame which arises here, it's more accurate, play knight e7 first to force the king to go to h8, is roughly equal. I was thinking about if this was going to work, but black blocks the passed pawn successfully and eats it up later, so I have to move the bishop as far as I could see. Then we get this position, which I think is equal. Though maybe white's passed pawn is actually a big plus, so maybe white is slightly better. Queen f6 is a more fighting move, not going into the endgame. Played d6. The idea is that after rook takes c4, I throw in the queen check, knight e7, so my knight isn't hanging. And if queen takes e7, I can take on e7, rook takes f4, and rook d8. And then I will be able to win a lot of material. And it's pretty clear who wins. So king h8, queen takes c4, b2, and then I had to move queen c7. The rook is hanging, and queen takes f2 is hanging, so I have to take here. But this should be better for white. White has much more active pieces, a very strong pass pawn. In fact, I think it might be winning. d7, pushing the pass pawn even further. And rook ac1, protecting the bishop. My idea after knight b2 was rook d4 as well. But my opponent blundered the game in one move with knight c3. Though I think in this position, maybe g6 is the best move. I wasn't sure what to do here because in this endgame, I'm probably not worse, but I have to be very careful to not lose the pawn on d7 right away or something. To be honest, maybe this is just equal. Because if black defends the pawn, I have knight here with some tricks, but maybe it doesn't work. And black can play a6 and win the pawn on d7, so I should maybe play queen c7 or something, but the position after bishop takes b7 is very unclear, though here I would not be sure that white is better, but after knight c3 this game is just over. Let's have a look at the second game, which was very interesting. Though I played a few inaccuracies, I think. Bishop e6, a very interesting move, with the idea of taking on c4, c5. Bishop e6 gets white to play this, but the position after g6, bishop g7 castles, it's the computer says it's equal, and I think it's very playable for black, though it's a bit complicated to play as both black and white because there are so many ideas. I was also thinking about b6 here, but I couldn't decide what to do after bishop b5. Thought of something like this, but couldn't really get it to work. Here he has b5, so I don't think this works out too well for black. So I went knight e4, typical idea. Queen c1 is actually also a move I see very often. Now I guess the idea is rook d1, which I learned in this game. The move b6 was very interesting here too. Then maybe going rook c8. Maybe I should have done this. Though there should be some kind of tactical justification for this move in this position. Yeah, it looks as if black gets enough compensation at the very least. So maybe b6 after queen c1 was an interesting idea. Though he might be able to force a draw like this. Though he can obviously always play on with knight takes d4 or something, so I think this is not better for white at all, and black might be better. Bishop g4, typical move, putting pressure on the d4 pawn. He defends with rook d1, also prevents my idea of e5. And here k8 was maybe wrong. I think I should have played f5 right away, because after h3, this is a much better version of what happened in the game. Okay, e6. Here, I'm not very sure about my position. I think I'm slightly worse. And I went for g5. It's a very risky move. I'm very unsure about this decision. because I give up a pawn, but I thought I have some compensation with ideas of e5. The back first f2 pawn, a lot of his pawns are on dark squares, so I don't know how you evaluate this position. Queen d2 I thought was passive. Queen h5, h4, logical. King h8, think very logical move. d5, and here I thought about the move queen f3, and trying to force a draw, but usually I don't really like draw, so didn't really want to play it either. And also I wasn't sure if it actually is a draw, because as far as I could see, maybe I have something better here, like rook f3. Yeah, I don't really believe in black's position here. Queen f5, g4. And here I couldn't see the continuation. So I had to play the passive knight b8 as far as I could see. I also thought of the move knight a5, using the fact that after queen takes a5 I take on e2. Well, even this position isn't very clear. Though black gets some interesting ideas for sure, threatening maybe to take on e1. But I wasn't happy with the move knight f4, because if the queen simply moves he takes on a5, so I calculated this a little, but it didn't seem very convincing to me. There must be something that gives white a big advantage there. So I went for knight b8, not the move I want to make, but what can I do? Queen f7, threatening h6 as well. He defends with the move h5. Here I played e5, but I also thought of the move queen f5 after I had played e5. And it seems quite strong to me, to be honest, that he might have to play knight g2 here. But here I must have something nice, right? Maybe e5 or something. This is a move I want to see. Because if he simply plays bishop h4, I have the idea of bishop h6 followed by taking on f4, and I get the better endgame and win my pawn back. So e5 I don't think, even though it's a pawn break I want to play for, I don't think this is the best moment to play it. d4, queen f5, logical move, and here I went for e3, I don't see any other tactical shots. I can also play slowly with knight d7, but not clear after c6. But I ended up blundering back with knight d7, and instead if I move my bishop cautiously, maybe bishop b2 or something, I should be winning. Because I'm up a piece. Okay, he has 3 pawns, my king is a bit open, but as in the long run, a piece will have a lot of influence. So really, in the middle game, a piece is worth much more than 3 pawns usually. But I blundered with knight d7 to go for bishop b2. I wonder what happens after rook d1. Then I guess I have the move knight e5, followed by knight f3. I took. I couldn't see anything better than bishop b2 here, but is there anything better? Probably not. The problem if I move my knight is that I can't even take on f2 because this is check. So we reached this endgame, and here I took the pawn on d7. It looked the most dangerous, but I was of course also thinking about taking the pawn on f2. But I couldn't with second see the continuation. But actually queen f5 might be a bit kind of convincing here, as queen c8 is not a move and I want to take on h5. So maybe this was better, to be honest. Yeah, this was probably better. And here I honestly just blundered a pawn. It's not so easy to play. Rook e8 is probably a much more logical move than queen f5. Queen e4, hoping to trade off queens, and he agrees, and this is a draw. White can try to press a little, but it's not easy. I think the only way to press, as far as I could see, was king here, but it probably also doesn't work. So I think it's just a draw here. After he trades queens. I don't really understand why he traded queens. When I move like queen b3 and white should win quite easily. So I was kind of lucky with that one. Let's see what the computer has to say about these two games. These very interesting games for sure. My first draw this tournament actually. I'll run 2 reports at once. Oh wait, they haven't pressed run report here? Oh no. G3 is also another theoretical option instead of the more common E4, which I went for. I'm sure that many players who played the semi-Tarrasch don't have too much knowledge after G3, so it's an interesting attempt. Yeah, and suddenly it's all over. And he rightfully resigned. Let's see what the computer has to say. So I've heard that bishop c4 is the most challenging move to the semi-Tarrasch, as opposed to the more passive bishop e2. A4, this move I haven't seen before. Maybe the computer just suggests something strange on a low depth. Rook a d1 instead, With the idea of queen e3, after knight takes e4. I can show the variation, I guess. And then the knight moves and you take on e6 and white is better. Rook a d1 was the move instead of rook f d1, I see. I wonder what the computer thinks of the move e5. It's sad that you can't really check with the chess.com engine. 5. Here I thought I was better, but... yeah, after g6 I wasn't sure. Yeah, this position here, yeah? I didn't know how to evaluate. It looked very complicated. Knight c3 loses the game right away. He forgot about the move g5. That would have fought on a bit longer. Because now he's just an entire piece down and the game finished quickly. Let's have a look at the next game. Yeah, what I mentioned, yeah, that b6 works here due to the tactical idea of rook takes c5 in the end. And the computer points out the idea of f5, f4, which is also typical. So the computer actually says I have decent compensation. I wasn't sure at all. Rook f3, huh, what's the idea behind this move? Ah, it's to play rook d3 and capture the pawn on d4. Ah, this maneuver rook f3, rook d3 is beautiful. This is something I have to remember for sure. Yeah, I had to play knight b8. The computer agrees that queen f3 nor knight a5 don't work. 7. Play d5. Interesting how it doesn't say anything about queen f5. Ah, yeah, I see now. The computer. I simply realized that I'm actually not threatening this bishop at all. Okay, that changes queen f5 a bit. Yeah, he had h6, I think. And then I'm very weak on the dark squares. I was thinking about this during the game, I remembered. And bishop e7. Ah, in this. Ah, interesting how the computer thinks the endgame after bishop takes f4 is good for him. This is just a blunder. As I said, I should have played bishop b2. Because now I'm clearly worse. Ah, he had queen d4 and then he promotes the pawn. I think we both missed this. A lot of misses in the time scramble there. Well, it doesn't like queen takes. But I wonder why. King h2, queen f5. And why is this so bad? Ah, it's just a draw, I guess. After a repetition of moves, if I'm correct. Yeah. And yeah, this is a blunder. Rook e1. Maybe I should have gone for it, yeah. But it looks very risky to remove pieces away from your king, but I guess you can't punish me, but how was I going to know that with only seconds left? Yeah, queen takes e4 was a very strange move, which I was happy to see. Because I'm able to capture this pawn, and I think it's a simple draw now. Move back and forth a lot, but in the end there was a perpetual. Let's write down the mistakes I made and I didn't make. So 8 games. So in the opening, I guess I messed up a little bit in the first game with Fury, playing rook fd1 instead of rook ad1, which kind of makes sense because I guess the rooks are better placed on d1 and e1 as opposed to on d1 and c1 because they are closer to the king of the opponent and white has some attacking chances. So I guess that was a mistake. In the second game, did I mess up in the opening? I guess creativity. I didn't realize I wasn't creative enough to find rook takes c5, so that is one mistake. Actually, I wasn't mistaken here because I correctly sacrificed the pawn in the last game. But I relaxed too much when I had a piece more, even though the position was still pretty unclear. In the next game, I didn't really make any. In the first game, I didn't make mistakes due to materialism. Did I fail making any plans in the first game? I executed some well-known plans with knight h4, knight f5. I don't really think I messed up but in the last game I didn't know what to do some moves, so that probably counts. I missed knight a4. Is there anything? What about a second game? I didn't really miss anything. I was relatively confident, 4 out of 5. I didn't underestimate my opponent either. I stayed concentrated. I didn't let my emotions take the better of me, so that's good. In the opening I played quite fast. Maybe even 4 out of 5 I'll give myself. In the middle game I didn't play too slowly, though not too fast. In the end game, in the second game, I managed to play quite well in time trouble, so I guess 5. And I didn't really have too many moments when I spent a lot of time on one move. I guess after knight a4, so I'll give myself 4 out of 5 in this category. Alright everyone, thank you for watching this video, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one.